begin our second segment of the Indaba with a presentation from Mr. Msengezi. Mr. Msengezi, representing the Department of Transport. Mr. Msengezi, the floor is yours.
Once again, good morning. After the long break and for the benefit of those who have just arrived, may you allow me to introduce, just a brief introduction. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, Comrade Felix Mona. Also acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Deputy Minister of Transport and Infrastructural Development, the Chairman, Comrade Mike Madiro. I will also want to acknowledge the presence of the Permanent Secretary, Acting Permanent Secretary, Dr. L.R. Masukaduma. I also would like to acknowledge the presence of the Secretary for Devolution, Harare Province, Mr. T. Tafazwa Muguti. I would also want to acknowledge the presence of the Board Chair, Traffic Safety Council Zimbabwe, and other board members here present. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of the CEO, Zinara, and board members here present, and in absentia, the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee members. I would also would like to acknowledge the presence of directors from the Ministry of Transport and other cooperating ministries. I would also like to acknowledge our cooperating partner, representatives 1010. I would also like to acknowledge the presence of our colleagues from the freight and passenger transport, and all invited guests here present. I am going to make a presentation to share with you on the issue regarding regulation of PSV speed and best practices. This is a subject that is that invites a lot of debate. So we will share ideas. As you know, speed has become an indisputable cause for accidents in this country. Speed is an important aspect in traffic safety management. As you know, regulating authorities prescribe maximum speeds to be observed when driving on various portions of the road. There are a number of intervention methods for speed management and their effects to enhance compliance and thereby reduce traffic accidents. One of the most important goals for the transportation professionals and policymakers is to prevent and reduce traffic crashes and their severity or casualties. Speed is the most determinant in road crashes. It has an effect on crash rate and injury severity. I'm going to talk about intervention strategies for speed control from an engineering point and scientific. We have speed limiting signs and zones that are displayed to inform the drivers of prescribed speeds. These we must have adequate road signs and the indication to advise drivers, whether of buses or other classes of vehicles. We have a gap in this regard, which we need to also fund. Then we have intelligent speed adaptation method systems. Does not allow the vehicle to exceed safe or legally enforced speed. In a speeding situation, as alluded earlier by our Honorable Minister, it automatically and effectively reduces the speed, or driver could be alerted either by a beep, a buzzer, or visual or auditory messages. We also have what we call active accelerator pedal. It is either electronic or manual. All these are to restrain the driver from overspeeding. We come to automation, and I think of our partner 1010 here, who is an ICT industry, who are in the ICT industry. We have speed camera and radar. These may be fixed or mobile, which captures vehicles of speeding drivers and report them in an office situation where the contravening drivers will be alerted by messages and invited to settle fines. But these are conditional. Sometimes drivers reduce speed when approaching such zones because they now know that if you enter such a zone, this is the required speed, so they conform to the speed. We also have, from the engineering sector, we have what we call vertical and horizontal deflections. They are said or believed to be more effective than cameras. When you say vertical deflections, we are talking of humps. You find at dangerous zones or school children crossing points, there are humps because the driver feels the effects of going through a hump at a high speed. So it is quite effective. Then we also have horizontal deflections. When planning cities or human settlements, we have areas where there's speeding, they put roundabouts. These are roundabouts. Because if a driver has to negotiate a roundabout, he has to go through that one at a safe speed. We also now have to talk about what we have. In 2010, due to the escalating numbers of traffic accidents involving public service vehicles, the government introduced a requirement which are prescribed in SI 129 of 2015, section 64.2. We have prescribed gadgets. The first one is tachograph. It is mandatory. We have about 6 gadgets, but they are optional. The operator has to make a choice which one they want to adapt to their vehicle. We have what we call a tachograph. We once used a tachograph. A tachograph is an instrument that records the driver's speed and behavior on paper. If they stop, there's a brake. And these were quite effective for some time. We used to stop buses. All VID officers and police officers were given small keys. So when we stop the bus, we ask the driver to alight. Then we check, we open the black box and check how he has been driving. Then we go to tacholog. A tacholog is an electronic recorder fitted on the vehicle. And it is decoded by electronically. Then it will show how the driver was speeding, was behaving, and so on. Then we have a vehicle data recorder, electronic again. It is recording the behavior of the driver on the road, the speed at which he has been traveling. It is required to be decoded. We did not have clear mandates of who was going to decode and what was going to happen. And this one, we never saw them being used. Then we have fleet managers or trackers, which most of our bus operators have. These operate on a real time. There will be a control room where the operator or those manning the control room will be monitoring how their fleet or buses or trucks will be traveling. And this one is by legislation, but enforcement agents do not have access to. But we can go there, but it's time consuming and very difficult to plan for enforcement. We have a co-driver. It is an electronic recording again, which requires decoding. Then lastly, we have what we call a speed limiting device, which most of you have heard about. This is effective because if the driver attains a certain speed where it is set, it cuts the fuel to the engine. And then the driver, even if he wanted to exceed 100 or 120, the speed will just end at 90 kilometers per hour. It's quite effective. And we have discussed this with our colleagues from the passenger freight sector. As I have gone through the requirements of SI 129 of 2015, I would like to say these provisions were not effective, because year after year we are complaining. Even if all of us leave this room, you head to Mutare or Gweru, you are going to complain. You have been overtaken, and you know by what. So we need effective options to restrain drivers from overspeeding. Provisions of the current legislation not yielding desired results due to ineffective legislation. We have on our statutes a demerit point system where if a driver violates the speeding or whatever it is, that will lead to him losing some points, and there's an effect for his driver's license to be recalled at the end. And this, we share the information with the driver. But all this relies on efficient and effective information technology. That's why we have our ZIMTIS system. If ZIMTIS system is going to be operational, then if a driver approaches a roadblock, the police, by simply interacting with his driver's license, they will know that this driver is left with only 3 points. And if he violates, we will transmit that information to the central data collection point. And if he attains or exhausts the points, his driver's license may be recalled. We also have a big problem, especially in the passenger freight, unregulated competition in the bus industry, especially inland. I'm sure you have all witnessed that. There's been, as the minister has alluded, circulation of these issues on social media. So the competition is unregulated, and we need to organize. We sit down with our colleagues in the passenger freight sector and come up with effective methods to prevent them from competing in that manner, which is dangerous to the occupants. Most of these buses have uncontrolled or ungoverned engines, especially the Chinese version, which is now the majority of our buses on the highways. We have other buses of European origin. They have a provision for regulating speed on their engines. And we have not seen any problems in that area. But for the Chinese buses, these are the ones that are attaining over 125 kilometers per hour, speeds of 125. Then we also have high and unrealistic targets set by operators to their crews. Oversubscribed routes resulting in competition that relies on speed advantage. That's why, like the example which have been given by our Honorable Minister, a driver has to go in front of the other bus so that he can pick passengers, which is very dangerous. Then we come to enforcement of speed management tools. This is critical in achieving safe use of roads, compliance with speed limits, and ensuring overall movement at safe speed. We seek the promotion of automated speed enforcement. We have two categories. We have got CBDs, built-up areas in Harare, where the menace being caused by the Mushika-shikas could be a thing of the past if change of ownership is effected. We will rely on efficient data that if someone sells a vehicle, they must be compelled to change the ownership. In urban centers, at intersections, use of radar and camera speed detecting devices, fixed or mobile, that captures the vehicle when threshold speed is exceeded. It ensures consistent enforcement of speeds where engineering measures cannot be installed to calm traffic. Ensure enforcement agencies, this one I wish the Treasury was here. Ensure enforcement agencies are capacitated with required tools, hardware, such as vehicles, gadgets, and space to operate. I'm sure you have seen our colleagues in the ZRP and VID. We would want government to do more to capacitate us so that we are effective. Because there are certain places, like just imagine the race that occurred along the Motoko Road. For the police officer to come from Murewa police station without a car, they can't go far. So these guys will just be racing. So at least if we have capacity to monitor the highway, I think the situation can improve. Lastly, I would like to talk about awareness, education of speed management. Public awareness campaigns to educate drivers on dangers of speeding. I think our colleagues from the traffic safety agents do a good job during their campaigns, during holidays. We must also support efforts of traffic safety stakeholders, Traffic Safety Council of Zimbabwe and the medical fraternity, etc. Some accidents occur in non-built areas. And, you know, normally the police and the medical institutions will be in the vicinity. They need our support. We also need to promote responsible driver behavior and speed compliance in advertisements. I'm sure we've seen these also being spearheaded by the Traffic Safety Council. We need more, and I'm very happy that the Honorable Minister we may be privileged to share with him some of the clips of offending buses. We should craft our laws in such a manner that such evidence is admissible. Currently, we are working on legislation in the ministry which will curtail some of this unbecoming behavior. I rest my case. Thank you, Igwe.
Can you check that seat? This one.
Is this a promotion?
Yes, sir. Now we have Mr. Msengezi occupying the whole front table seat there of VIPs in preparation of the fire. Honorable Minister, what we have done is to strategically position question and answer sessions after each presentation. Why? Because they are coming from different backgrounds. It would have been very difficult to mix the presentation on speed limits with that on drugs and alcohol and so on and so forth. And for that reason, allow me, say, to call for any questions that are related to his presentation, but I will also abuse my position now as your MC. Honorable Minister, I don't think there is any harm at all if they extend any questions related to VID operations, including learner driver testing, because they are still relevant to road safety. So if you have got questions on the new learner driver systems and how they impact on road safety, if there are any issues that you are familiar with that are taking place, in the absence of clips, you can bring your experiences and direct them so that we can get answers rather, from all that are here. Thank you. So we call upon now somebody to move around with a roving mic for the purpose of him attending to your questions, observations, and related. Thank you. Yeah, I see Mr. Gobo there.
1, 2.
Is there someone? Right, I see Mr. Gobo. Sorry, you start.
Hello? Hello? The House, I think if 3 questions are asked, I will respond. And thereafter, another 3 questions, maybe a maximum of 6 good questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Presenter. I will not give a question, since it's a gathering so that we share solutions. I'll also highlight some of the issues that really have to be considered when we talk of speed management. The fundamental issue that is core to this topic is that when we talk of speed and speeding, we really have to talk of 2 issues. We talk of what is called design speed. That's where he was talking of the issues of engineering. Then we talk of operating speed. After we have designed the roads, the infrastructure, what then do the drivers drive at? And then when we talk of operating speed, that's where we then talk of the speeds that we post on the different segments of the highway. So this is basically what people should then understand. When a designer does his designs for the road, he comes up with what is called design speed. When we also then do road safety audits and whatever, we look at the different features of the roads, we then come up with what is called operating speed. Then the driver, when he drives it, then comes up with his different speed. And when we talk of, there's no such thing that is called overspeeding. The terminology is speeding. When you drive, what is called speeding is when you drive at a speed which is not appropriate to the environment of the highway. So these are the fundamental things. And contemporary studies and scholars will tell you advanced countries are then talking of what are called variable speeds. Because when a designer comes up with a design speed, it is based on what we call assumptions. And those assumptions change because times do change. And operating speed, if we post a speed and then we say 60 kilometers, 60 kilometers may not be appropriate for the time that I'm traveling. So this is what people should then realize. That's why we then have crashes. You are driving at an inappropriate speed, and we still call you. They may have posted this 80 kilometers per hour, but the weather does not allow you to travel at 80 kilometers per hour. You can then have a crash, and then we say you are traveling at an inappropriate speed. So these are the fundamentals that people need to understand from a road safety point of view. Then the other issue that I wanted to talk about is ineffective legislation. And then they were talking of unregulated competition. There's no such thing as called competition. Competition is a creation of business. The other issue that you need to understand, we have two variables when we talk of transportation. We have two people, two players. We have a businessman who operates on the basis of profitability. The two issues that have to be met by transport, we talk of what is called mobility, moving goods and people from one place to the other. Then we also talk of the issue of safety. Those things have to be moved safely. These things vary inversely. Mobility talks to time. How fast have you transported the people? How fast have you transported the goods? Then the faster the speed, the higher the risk of you being involved in a crash. So how do you then reach an optimum point? Again, that's one of the issues that you need to then address when you talk of speed management. Okay, I'll just rest my case in the interest of time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gobo. For those that are coming with their questions and related, please make them as brief as possible so that people will extrapolate the real issues that they need to respond to. Thank you.
Since it was waiting for that ASI to come from these offices?
Noted, sir. Noted. Can you introduce yourself before you head over the mic?
My name is Indaba from Passenger Association.
Thank you. Third, do we have a third question from? Yes.
Touching all the necessary issues, but my issue is what are we going to do with initiatives which will even go through the VIT roadblock? What are we going to do with them? Because there is no any inspection that is given. So we must make sure that we deal with it in your office or in your jurisdiction as VIT. How can we? Number two, competition. Also touch the issue of competition. For sure, speeding in public transport is a product of competition. So it's easy to eliminate it. Some of the issues we discuss in-house with the operators. But for progress sake, because of this Indaba, there is need for every operator, regardless of the number of fleet, to belong to an association. And that legislation, which actually compels, must also be speed up because it contributes very much to road safety. Because where an operator is in an association, it means he's going to be accountable to the road safety code of conduct of a particular association. And also, we are going to seek a regulation in terms of how many buses, how many combis, because as I speak right now, if anybody decides to do what he or she wishes to also do, there must be regulation in terms of the number, because we must also see the customer base, because we may have combis, buses, taxis, which are more than the customer base, and as a result, we will end up having 10 vehicles competing for 2 passengers. So this is what is happening, and also the issue of hostilities between operators. For the sake of this Indaba, it must stop today. The house must be cleaned. I belong to the sector. Sometimes it's strange to hear people, someone who belongs to the sector, speaking the way I'm talking. But now we have seen how the minister and even the PS, maybe the deputy minister and the other cabinet officials and stakeholders here, how passionate are they? So the issue of this disorderliness in terms of the operations must stop. They must coexist, accept that when the Ministry of Transport issues a road service permit or an operator's license, even to a new player, provided this is allowed, we don't see any reason why there is hostility. I think this does not need a budget of us to stop, or should that be? It's an in-house.
Thank you. I think the first one was quite academic, and you have all heard from Mr. Gobo. I don't need to contest that. Then some of the issues here are bordering on policy. I may need assistance. Number 2, effectiveness of SI 129 of 2015 regarding the requirements for speed monitoring and speed limiting. At that time when they came up with this SI, it was felt that you could not propose one method of managing speed. That's why we had 6 of them, which were optional. But in the entirety of them, no one ever fitted speed limiters except the trials at Inter-Africa, which we had of. And it was quite effective. But he was discouraged because his buses now could not match the competition. They were governed at 80, whilst his competitors could do 120. So he lost business. And as a result, he said, no, I'm taking off my gloves. He also removed the speed limiters. And that's why we are talking about it today. We have also the buses we have mentioned. We have got, models that have got a provision for regulating speed, like these buses that go to South Africa, MAN, the European origin. But what we are doing, like Mr. Magurama and Minda asked, like I said in my presentation, the ministry is currently engaged in reviewing its legislation, and speed limiting is one of them. So very soon you will see a review and introduction of a definitive legislation to that effect. Then we also, you also talked of mushikashika. Sometimes when people talk of mushikashika, you feel that like it is an identified phenomenon of transportation. No, mushikashika is just entirely illegal. Mushikashika is illegal. If it cannot become a taxi, it can never become a passenger operating a vehicle. So it's an opportunity that in the industry there has been a deficiency or provision of transport. Then they saw the gap and they came in. But the legislation is there. What they are doing is illegal, they can be stopped. If, when I say if we have capacity to carry passengers, I'm not saying we allowed them because we didn't have capacity, but they are just an illegal operation, which I think Mr. Magurama and we have witnessed sometimes when we have joint operations with the police, we take them in hundreds, and the Constitution allows them to give them back their property, and they re-engage in that, and it's a cat and mouse thing. Then we come to the third one, competition. Yes, competition, we've talked about it. In commerce and industry, commerce, it's academically it's allowed. It is something that is encouraged. But the competition now, when it's buses that are traveling on the highway, is a problem now because they endanger the lives of the passengers. The passengers pay to be transported safely from point A to point B. But when you speed over the prescribed speed by law, then you are endangering their safety. It's no longer worth the money they've paid. You also touched on forming of associations. I'm sure there's a piece of legislation that has not seen the day of light, which was being, we were jointly with the Minister of Local Government to craft that law. This is the way to go because regionally in South Africa, Zambia, our colleagues are doing this, and the benefits are self-regulating in the industry. We have seen it bearing fruits in the bus industry, like for, some associations are actually, they're actually regulating their members from, doing all forms of violations, and they've been given warnings, and sometimes the association comes to report them to the ministry, which is quite a good thing. It's self-regulating, and that's the way to go. And the local government and Ministry of Transport are jointly crafting that piece of legislation. Where they fail to rein in one of theirs, we are invited, and we can come in with the ZRP and assist. Hostilities between operators. Yes, you can be hostile, but if you are hostile to each other and contravening other provisions of the law, public indecency or so, it's okay. But if you are if the hostilities encroach on violating the road rules, operational rules, prescribed by the ministry, then you should report, and the course of law will take. The law will take its course. I don't know if I have attempted all your questions, Mr. Magura Minda. Thank you. Master of Ceremony, are we going to have another round or?
And Mr. Swana.
Thank you very much, Mr. Msengezi. For me, it's not a question as such. I was just asking the Honorable Minister if I could just give you a few comments, particularly since it's an Indaba. Normally what happens at Indabas is you brainstorm ideas and you basically come out with a way forward. And I believe that as I've been listening to the questions, one thing which comes to mind is sometimes people ask questions that relate to them. And sometimes as government, we tend to then take a position where we defend the policy. And I believe in the remarks that the Honorable Minister said to us today, he challenged us to basically come up with a new thinking. He challenged us to get out of our comfort zones and basically be able to tackle the challenges of the statistics that we're given. So what it basically means, sorry, I'm realizing I'm speaking with my back to the people, Honorable Minister, sorry. I think what it basically means is that as an Indaba, as stakeholders, the time has come, Honorable Minister, where we need to sometimes get out of the comfort zone. And the unfortunate part is in Zimbabwe, we're good at talk shows. We'll come here, talk, you are here, you've graced us, the minister, the deputy minister. We go back, and tomorrow morning, we'll read the paper that there's another bus which has killed 100 people. Tomorrow morning, we'll see another combi with no turning lights, with cardboard windows, or someone doing the cliff hanging, someone sitting on top of a combi. And nowadays, even pregnant women are being put in the boot of a Honda Fit. And the question that we said in our opening remarks, and you also said it, is that why are we here? Because if we are here with the people who own the buses, we are here with the people who make the laws and enforce them, and then we come out and we go out the same, then Honorable Minister, we've failed Zimbabwe. And I just thought I would ask for your permission to challenge the audience to say, can we be serious? Because everything we are discussing is normal. We are here to discuss the abnormal, to say things the way they are. Ladies and gentlemen, we have failed Zimbabwe. We have failed Zimbabwe, period. Because if we own the buses and we are not taking accountability for the 2,300 people who died last year, and no one is seeing it fit that Honorable Minister, today we need to come out of here and say, how are we going to regulate speed? We are not here to discuss technologies. We are here to come up with a way forward. Today we have to agree, what are we going to do with them shika-shikas? Today we have to agree, what kind of point system do we want for the licensing? Today we have to agree to say, if tomorrow we see another incident, there's no need for us to try and be democratic to say Zudak and associations go and try and reprimand your drivers. No, we have to agree. The law is the law. You can't drive a passenger transport operator when you're below 25 years. But we're seeing 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds driving Anababana Namai. And then we sit here and we're trying to be diplomatic. I think, ladies and gentlemen, let's be serious and let's make sure by the time we go to lunch, we've come out with solutions so that Honorable Minister can go back to Parliament and say, we have solved this problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Msengezi, and thank you, Piers. I think some of the things that I wanted to raise, you have already deliberated on. But I thought we can have some quick solutions, because the buses that you're talking about from China, in China there's a speed limit up to 100 kilometers per hour for those buses. So I think we can engage, because all these suppliers, there are people here in Harare. So if we talk of Yongtong, if we talk of Yutong, Vanuatu Aripo, why can't we engage them and tell them that the next slot of buses, to limited speed to China, or Akunaya, can't you send engineers? So that's uniform industry mess. That's number one. Number two, probably this goes to the minister. In other jurisdictions, other countries, Institute of Transport Studies. This is where academic issues are ventilated to do with transport. I think about Goboambotaura, you can't just say on this road the limit is 60 kilometers an hour. Where is the scientific evidence to base that? So as we develop, we need to do that. Unfortunately, one thing that we have not done as a country is we have never understood how the transport industry was designed by those that created this country in terms of the infrastructure. If you look, it's an industry that can only operate on regulation. I mean, you don't have to be smart to make money as Econet. You make money because you've been given a spectrum by the state. You make money as an operator because the state has given you a permit to operate. It must be regulated. People must respect the rules. But in Susuwacho, if we don't enforce, nothing happens. As the peer said, Sinogobuda Pano, Atina ma resolutions. Indaba, a good minister, Mahakono implement, I go on national TV. This is the way forward. You can't tell us to Mushika, after that, so what are we doing as a nation? We got to come up with a policy so that if they are removed from the roads, if they are going to be regulated, you got to come up with legislation to regulate them so that they operate. Because my laws are meant for the people. We are not static. Everything changes as we go. If there's a need to have those people on the road, why don't we look into that? So that a long-lasting solution is provided. Thank you.
Next round. Ladies and gentlemen, as much as we want to have all questions and we need them, please let us be as brief as possible. To the point, please, please. Right, can we circulate? You are next. So you are the last two to give us some questions.
Thank you very much, MC. Honorable 600s will be required to have speed monitoring devices. We propose that even vehicles above the limit of 4,600 be considered. That is our proposal. Thank you.
May they continue? Okay. Okay. You are the last one for now. The rest, I take note that we operators, you have got issues. We'll try to create a slot for discussion, so, interactive discussion at the end, so that we put in some problem and we are answering as the respective sector. He will give us his question for now, and then we allow the Honorable Minister to make his comments.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think from the discussion that we have had, I'm Alex Ngwena, on behalf of Genoptic of Germany. From our last interactions with other key stakeholders, we realized that legislation in this country does exist. But the challenge that we have got, I think, in this country is implementation and enforcement. What we are saying, Honorable Minister, is let the officials embrace digital technology. The days should be gone where we've got a catch and mouse situation, police running around with mshika-shika, with a button stick and all that sort of thing. If we have got a situation, a solution where we've got mobile cameras that are mounted on police vehicles, operated remotely by nobody, and it's just the camera that is mounted on that particular vehicle, it picks the car that is speeding, and a ticket is automated straight away. And on traffic lights, we have got cameras on all traffic lights. If you look at, for example, we try to engage City of Harare many times. If you try to look at traffic lights, people go through traffic lights, red robot, wrong turn, that sort of thing, and congestion in the CBD is horrible, really. So what we are saying, Honorable Minister, let's embrace digital technology. If somebody is given a ticket, it's generated automatically. When it's generated automatically, we work with Zinara, with CVR. That ticket is going to be annotated to the vehicle when he's going to pay his road tax next time. That ticket will have to be cleared first before you pay for your insurance and you pay for your road tax. And that is no burden to the fiscus whatsoever. It's a project that is simple and it can run well. And even for public buses, we have got average speed cameras. If the bus is traveling from, say, Murewa to Harare, and it is found here in no time, it's already in Harare. How long? You've got a camera from one space, and you've got a camera at the other end. It just checks what speed it has been doing, and a ticket is generated straight away. Them shika-shikas, you've got parking in CBD, they're a nightmare. Just come up with the cameras in there. If shika-shika is parked, double parked on the roads, give a ticket remotely, and it's annotated straight away to the vehicle. I would think that would be the best way forward. Thank you.
hope this. Okay, thank you very much. I'm not going to repeat most of the valid points raised by my earlier interventions, my colleagues who intervened earlier on. And also, I'm going to leave much of the issues to my Honourable Minister. But I feel very strongly that it is important that we are seated here as stakeholders to this important discussion. I think we need to, as Zimbabweans, to shift from operating in our different pockets and not look at it from a holistic, integrated approach. Here we have operators, bus operators, you know, the business people, the entrepreneurs who are providing a service. But you are operating within an environment which is regulated by separate stakeholders. In this case, we have the government. Yes, I've heard much of amendment to this, amendment to that, SI, amendment to this statutory instrument. I feel that we are very good at that as Zimbabweans. It's not only in this sector, across the board. We are very good at making laws. But when it comes to implementation of our own laws, it is like it's coming from the moon. It's like we are not the very people who have made those laws for ourselves. We don't follow what we have regulated for ourselves. Whether it is the regulatory authority, whether you are the players themselves, and other stakeholders. We are so disaggregated, we are so isolated. If you look, for example, bus operators, you park in areas which are managed by local authorities. And the police is in the road to see whether you are complying on the road, and the minister is giving overall supervision and oversight. But if you lack that linkage and coordination, where the left hand knows what the right hand is doing, in the attitude itself, it would appear that the operators, what you want to have is money, nothing else. Even to maintain your own tools. You know, you wonder, you know, what my brother here was saying about a combi with a cardboard box as a windscreen, blocking vision. And you are still saying, go ahead. We want to have money at the end of the day. So what is important is attitudinal change. We must accept our situation by actually realizing where we are. When you are starting a journey, you know where you're going. And you know along the way there are stations. And if you take a different direction, you will not reach the destination. So it is important to say, where are we? Do we accept the situation we are in? We have lost lives and we are going to lose more lives. And when we realize that we're not doing the right way, then we say, what is to be done? At the end of the day, after this whole discussion, it is important for every stakeholder to be in sync and say, guys, let everyone play their role. And from the minister down to the local authority, we must be all moving together in the right step. Otherwise, we'll be wasting our time having Indabas again and again. But, you know, it was quite disappointing, Minister. Recently, I think we had an AGM with the Transport Safety Council of Zimbabwe. And we looked at statistics. And I said to myself, all that what these guys are doing, we're going to have lesser death and lesser injuries and less of accidents. But I'm surprised going through the holiday, it almost doubled the statistics. So I started to say, so what are we doing? Where are we missing it? We asked ourselves that day that why is it that we have got less traffic, but we've got more accidents than the developed world? Is it because those guys are too clever than us or not? It is because of our attitude to our own lives, to our own situations. as Zimbabweans, as African particularly, we must be cultured and have an identity that we are people who can follow their own framework. So I want to plead to players to say, okay, let us agree that what has been happening before is not acceptable and what is to be done, and we do it. So, Honourable Minister, I'll leave you to do the specifics. Thank you, Comrade.
Thank you so much. He's my boss from our real business of the country. Pamsure Chef. Thank you so much for highlighting those issues, and also to those who have contributed. I want to thank you for your inputs, and also to be specific to the issues that were raised by PS and Chairman, to say, let us not have a talk show. And if you really go through what I've been saying earlier on, you find that maybe we are one of such a country where we enjoy talking, whether it's social media and we don't proffer solutions, which is very problematic. And I was saying, I can just give you a good example. Again, I was very topical a month ago or so in the social media, for good or bad reasons, where I was said to have donated a pole, a wooden pole with speed limit, which was 60. And just to showcase, kuti takaita semunyika vamwe vanhu handisati ndambotaura nawo 20 days vaingonditumira message kuti ichokwadi ndozvawaita. So you can actually tell what excites us as a nation. People are seeing a wooden pole and that signage, which is SADA compliant. One, they are not even aware that it's a treated pole. With the way we are doing business now, if we put the steel structures, they are vandalizing. Bridge over rail, vanoenda kwamutare izvozvi. Yesterday, ndakatotumirwa picture, pasina kana steel reinforcement. Vacheka yese. Then we are having, if you look at Mutare Plumtree Road, those are the wooden poles we are using. Treated, but not with the usual creosote, black atajere, but with the green metal. So at times, if you post it, might not show. It's like a wooden pole. But where we launched that program was at Nyabadza Business Center. Vanhu vanenge vachitengesa crossing over vachitsikwa, and the community was so excited seeing us there. But when outside now, who is seeing a pole and a minister with a shovel? How much fuel do you use in your Land Cruiser to go and donate a pole? So the narrative has totally changed. But what we are saying is we are launching this program countrywide, where we are putting signage on our black spots throughout the road. And there were about 80 signs of that nature. But one person decides to send the narrative that one pole has been donated. We are putting humps, we are putting rumble strips, we are putting pedestrian crossings, we are raising awareness, we are training communities within the neighborhood that soon after an accident, which we call the golden hour, you need service. And those communities will rush to accident. So we are in a process of training Red Cross in tandem with Traffic Safety Council so that we raise awareness. But the narrative that we then send outside. So, brethren, we cannot continue to talk. Let me just give you a good example. We've got Vamkumba na Nananga. Bus operator varipo pakati pedu ndiani izvozvo? Yes, my brother. Kautsiro. Kautsiro, yes, brother Kautsiro. Toda kungotingoita a practical example. Mabhasis enyu mangani Vamkumba ari muroad? 480 buses. 408. Brother Kautsiro. I was not much. Thank you so much. Brother Nananga. Yes, yes. How many are you running? 192 plus 200 plus 400, 600. Look at the significance and the impact. And in terms of this discourse that we are having, the input, Yamunga is saying this. Because we are saying Mugaenda road, about 600 buses. And the 600 buses, if you then multiply even in terms of empowerment, in terms of yourselves and the employees that you have and the families that are benefiting from yourselves, and you find we took at 400 or so, it means in each and every province you might be represented. So basically we are saying this must be the right forum to discuss something that is very tangible. So that at the end of the day, one thing that I must break about our president, he's a listening president. Not to end or as a minister, or even if yourselves, if you would try him, he would leave everything and listen to you. So we are saying we've got a crisis that we have as a nation, where we are saying at the end of the day, vanhu vari kufa, and izvo zvitoko now 2003, but there is no guarantee that tikabva muno mutese tosvika. And we take it lightly, tinofanira kungosvika kwatiri kuenda, but why? And those who are dying, are they the ones vanenge vakonzera accident? No. Very innocent. Uri mu right lane, munhu anongobvawo achikututa. So this happens, but we take it lightly. Kuti as a nation, 2,300 against 14 million population. It's a number isingatombofanira kunge ichitisvika kwakadaro. So at the end of the day, this calls for a holistic approach like what we've indicated, real tangible solutions. So that when we finish, I'll take the document to my principal, we'll share, and as usual, we are guided. And for legislation, I'm happy that we will also propose through Madam Gashira, you've highlighted the need to revisit the SI 129 of 2015, so that we review my laws and also the citizen will be in a position to understand kuti kubva kupi tienda kupi. Tikasatsanangurira vanhu ndo patinoita ma-problems. So I want to thank you very much, and some of the issues and solutions we can implement immediately. Where we now need legislation and buy-in, then we consult. So I can say at the end of the day, if we then declare this is what we've agreed as an Indaba, we implement. But the betterment of this Indaba is kuti tirikuda kuchengetedza upenyu. So you see now at the end of the day, atina vanhu vese vanongoti, but surely takutotya chero kwada kuenda kwamutare kuda kuti unodzoka here. Vanhu vanotozotenda masvika kumba kuti munhu auya. But hauna guarantee yekuti uri kuenda, because it's not kuti iwewo ndiwe uri kugona kudrive. But what about the other part? So this is very topical and challenging, and I also want to add my voice to challenge you colleagues to say let's have tangible solutions where we can implement our stand and also be firm on that matter. And it's a taboo even vamwainzi vakati ndinosuspendwa vemabhazi vava munobva mamhanyana ndizvo here vakautsirwa nanhanga unzi mabhazi angu abatwe ane vakuru vacho ndevekupi. So this is the question that I've always asked people. There is name dropping all over, but I tell you, I've never received a directive from His Excellency kuti usabata apa bata apa handina havana. Saka kana uzonzi vakuru ngatimbotaura ise pangu inemi mukuru anopfura president pakati pedu imi anozouya achikuvhara amuchitemba naye ndiani. So you wonder kuti it's name dropping. At the end of the day mupurisa anopedzisira atya vamusengezi vada kumisa motokari parodhi vanobva kuti ashefu hanzi ndevakuru haibatwe. Vakuru voda kuuraisa vanhu here. There's nothing like that. So let us be firm, assertive, and also make sure, and I'm happy kuti you have started my refresher course even kuma bus companies kwenyu and the association. And the only hindrance that we have, bus operators, they are not organized themselves. Muri kutotyanana pachezvenyu kuti vamukumbana akawanda ende mashomangana kuti uyani akadai saka vakazoisa mutemo wavo kuita hinder this. So at the end of the day we are saying self-regulation. We tried to come together and have an association, but munhu anobva auya nerake bus one anobva aripinzawo handiti then omuti enda kuassociation kuti no, I can just manage my own bus. Selfish motives vis-a-vis the greater benefit of the nation. So we are saying at the end of the day, self-regulation, like the good thing, I want to thank the association for now for the two buses. They were part of the association, and the association, they were actually taking the lead. They had to suspend the operators from their own association, working together with the ministry. It shows kuti kana uri accountable to a certain person, then that's good. So I also want to move the issue of self-regulation with speed. Togadzirisa, and we know kuti kana tani that association inozikanwa. We are not saying gaite one, gaite two, but whoever kana ukaita 10 or so, but be organized so that everyone is accountable. Tikaona munhu achinza ane stika Zudak, remember Zudak, what are the benefits and what are you doing? So I think it's very important. So I thought maybe I'll just add on to what my colleagues have said. And also that, yes, we must be firm and be assertive. We mustn't apologize throughout tichibuda kuno vanhu voziva kuti kwakuchitwa Indaba kwete kuti tichingotaura chete. So I want to thank you so much. We may proceed.
Honorable Minister, thank you very much for those interventions. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this meeting has been challenged. That we come out of this place after these 2 days beginning now with the solutions to our problems that we are admitting to be having. We are working against those statistics, horrible as they are. And what is the problem? We are all pointing at a number of factors, including speeding. But I think it's not only speeding. Let us hear from the chairperson of the bus operators. Vatitaurire the operating environment yavo yavainayo and the challenges that they are facing, either with compliance or otherwise. Why are we having this accident after another one? Rega timbonzwawo vanhanhanga vatitsanangurire tivabvunze tivatonongore nemubvunzo sezvataitawo vamusengezi nevamwe. Vamusengezi yarema manje haisiri yenyu. Torai henyu chigaro chenyu chokutanga. Ndaona manga maomerwa chaizvo. Maita. Tatenda Mr. Nananga, edzai kubatanidza operating environment yenyu vanhu vainzwisise inosanganisira matauts. Ndakuda kumboti ndikubatsirei saMC. Matauts rolo yavo kumbabasa kwenyu ndei ndevenyu here kana kuti havasi. Makondakita venyu nevamwe nemiwo zvataurwa izvi nemitemo iri kugavhenai yacho yakakwana here kana kuti haina kana kutowedzera. Tatenda.
Maita basa master of ceremony. Alright, apa ndandisanda kuda kupa presentation yangu. Ndanga ndichida kungotaura dambudziko hombe ratinaro muZimbabwe pa operations yemabhazi. Dambudziko hombe ndere enforcement. Kunyangwe mukagadzira mitemo yakaita sei kana pasina enforcement hapana zvataita. Mitemo yatinayo pari zvino yakatokwana yakawanda asi enforcement hapana. Ndofunga vamusengezi vataura vakati maybe dambudziko ravainaro ndere capacitation. Saka tichibva muno, Honorable Minister, mapurisa havana zvekushandisa, VID haina zvekushandisa, asi kwatiri munyika muno hamuna enforcement. Vanhu vese vanooperator mabhazi vashoma vasingazive mitemo. Asi nenyaya yekuda kuti munhu wana anotaka kuita musikanzwa aringoregedza achienda, vanhu vese vobva vaona kuti hatina zvatinoitwa, ngatichingoite zvatiri kuita. Saka tikatanga tagadzirisa nyaya enforcement, if you really want to save the lives of the people, nyaya iri enforcement. Nasi mukabuda munomu muchiti murinogadzira nyangwe mutemo wakaita sei. Asi kana pasina vanhu vachaongorora mutemo iwoyo, hatina zvataita. Tatambisa nguva yedu. Saka seyambiro yandingade kupa tese tiri munomu, kuenforce manually kuri kunetsa ende kwaprova kuti muZimbabwe kwaramba. Ndoda kutenderana nevakuru vatoti let's go digital. Kuti hapana mupurisa achandisunga muroad. Ngandingosangane nemhosva dzangu kana kuri kulicensing kana kuri kuchii. Nekuti mapurisa acho atinawo, they are also fueling whatever is happening. Saka panapa toda kuwirirana kuti kana tiri kuda kuti vanhu vasafe, ngatingobude muno mutatu ine solution. Honorable Minister, ndokumbirawo kuti angave manheru kana mangwana titoziva kuti position yatava kutora ndeipi. Nekuti nyaya yespeeding yanetsa. Speed monitoring device motikari dzisi dzamuriona dziri kumhanya dzinawo asi hakuna reinforce. It was only on Monday last week patakazobuda tichitaura kuti kuma members edu akusina munhu achadarika 100 km/h. ezvozvo mukabuda mukaenda kuna Mutare Road mukaenda kuna Blaue Road nezotangana kuna Blaue nekudzoka hatina kuona bhazi raexceed 100 kilometers per hour, but because kune zvanga zvaitika kune vanhu vanga vasaspendwa munhu wese akuchiteerera. Saka tiri kuti enforcement kana isipo tingangoite zvese kana echi vanogona kuya pano, asi kana pasina enforcement hapana zvataita. Tatende.
Thank you all for those contributions. Thank you, thank you. I think for the sake of time and living within our program, we have to move forward. These sentiments, important as they are, they have been taken note of, they have been recorded as a matter of a matrix of progress that this meeting would have made by the end of the session. On that note, Honorable Minister, allow me to call upon, in the absence of Mr. Musiambiri, who was supposed to be coming, I think, from an agency of the Ministry of Health, to make a presentation on the topic alcohol and other mind-altering drugs. In their absence, we are now moving forward to almost a similar presentation on abused substances and diagnostic management interventions in fighting road carnage. This one now is no longer going to be made by the Professor Matarira, but by Mr. Donald Mangenje. Mr. Mangenje, are you ready with your presentation? If you are, can you please move forward to this podium and replace me so that you can be visible to the audience? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies. I'm not sure if I should stand on a chair, but I'm visible enough, Honorable Minister. Thank you very much. Honorable Minister, Honorable Felix Pona, Honorable Madiro, Mr. T. Mguti, Secretary of Provincial Affairs, Dr. L. Masuka Duma, Acting Permanent Secretary, Minister of Transport and Infrastructure Development. And allow me to write on all other protocols and just say all protocols exist. Honorable Minister, I think I am encouraged that today we face a problem that is a national problem. There are so many facets to this problem. We've spoken of roads, we've spoken of speed limits, we've also spoken of the personnel, the competency levels and what have you. This, my presentation today, touches on the personnel. The personnel that we are entrusting with lives of our parents, the personnel that we are entrusting with lives of our kids, the personnel that we are entrusting with lives of other road users on the road. So, the abused substance diagnostics management project is a project of the University of Zimbabwe, College of Health Sciences, the Zimbabwe College of Pathology, and First Step Zimbabwe. What this project basically is, therefore, so there is an increasing problem of drugs. I think we all live in Zimbabwe. The Zimbabwe of 20 years ago and the Zimbabwe we have today, the exposure that's there and how things have just degenerated in terms of drug use. Let's be forthright as Zimbabweans and accept that there is a problem and the problem is there. But do we keep paying lip service to a problem instead of acting on it? So we are all aware there are drugs. We will not paint all drivers with the same brush and say all drivers are taking drugs. But there is a problem. We live in an environment where this is happening. So, as the ASTM project, what does it aim to do? It aims to now take an active role in screening, in testing, in counseling, and management of victims. We are not judging, but we're trying to play a role in making sure that those that need to be tested are tested. Why? We want to safeguard lives, not only lives of road users, but on a broader scale, lives of the human being, mental health issues. I think the burden now on Zimbabwe's fiscus of mental health is almost 163 million. 8.8 million directly to health institutions to support mental health. Why? Increased use of drugs. And then we'll now take care of the cost of the lost labor, downtime, because somebody's high on Mtoriro. So it is what it is, and this is where we are. So as I said, we seek to provide access to testing services to combat alcohol and drug abuse. Alcohol is also, in there as a substance. I think there's so many misnomers in community that if you consume a certain drug, you will do things a bit better. I think that's popular with cannabis. Marijuana mbanje. I think you can drive for a very long time. Kanagaro mbanje, you'll perform better. We see it every day. And now it's an open secret. I live in Chishawasha, and I'm running one morning with my wife, and I can smell that this is mbanje. And there they are, right by the side of the road. They're smoking it. By the side of the road. And then you ask them, boys, they be doing mdara tiri mabhirita kuti basa ratofamba mdara ungenda tomboroba chi simbiye basa. Then you're like, really? But you understand the dangers. You're building a double-story house. If you fall from somebody's deck just because you're intoxicated. Dangers of drugs and how we've become as Zimbabwe. So how do we tackle this as the ASTM project? Conducting awareness campaigns through various fora, and then policy-guided voluntary testing for up to 15 drugs. This is urine-based. And then establishment of a drug helpline. Sometimes people that are on drugs want to help themselves, but they can't help themselves. They need somebody to help them. There are so many issues of people that have been able to fight drugs and stay clean. It does happen. So we've also got a drug helpline as the ASTM project. Counseling and referral of services. We're not just saying we'll test you, but we'll also help you, we'll counsel you, we'll manage you, we'll help you to get clean. Then sharing of statistics with the Minister of Health and Childcare and with the Minister of Transport, for example. So now we come to the relation, drug testing and the road carnage. How do we relate? I think as passenger transport operators, let's all be honest. The environments that we also operate in, or that our personnel operate in, what is the exposure and access to drugs? What is the exposure to substance abuse? What is the exposure to drugs? They are there, they are freely available. And you, as a transport operator, you're also there, your personnel are there. As I said, we are not painting everybody with the same brush. But are we saying we do not have users within our midst, within our employees? Out of your 408 buses, Mr. Mkumba, are we saying all of them, you might not have a user of drugs, that we're entrusting with lives of parents, lives of children, that they're carrying on board, because they are exposed to these things. So what do we propose as interventions? We said we are not beating about the bush, we are looking for solutions, And this is one just but another solution in what we will do in a broader scale, from speed limits to what have you. So as the ASDM project, I think since the launch of the project, we've been running a free drug testing campaign to say a person can just walk in and choose to be tested for drugs. But there's a stigma associated with the drugs, because you think if I get tested, then you have to be answerable to the law. But it is there for the taking. Free drug testing, you feel you've got a problem, you feel your child has got a problem, you feel your driver's got a problem, free drug testing. Then for the transport operators, what do we have to do to try and be safer? Pre-employment testing. I tell you, if somebody has taken drugs in the last month, we should be able to identify that. We can, when you put in the saliva test, when you put in the blood test, we can identify up to 30 drugs. And your major ones being your Motorito, your Gukas, your cannabis, they stay in your system for quite a while, even in your hair. So they stay for quite a while. So pre-employment testing, before you employ a driver, test them. Before you entrust them with the lives of people, test them. See where they've been. And I guarantee you, with some of those, you find that they are users. And you can't entrust them with the lives of people. As part of your driver's medicals, I think statutory, there are regulatory times when drivers have got to go through their medicals. As part of their medicals, test them for drugs. See what they've used. That should enlighten you on how those drivers will behave on the road. Yeah. Then, periodic ad hoc testing. As a transport operator, we are available as SDM. Periodic ad hoc testing, we come to you on-site testing, we test your drivers. Random. You know what it does. 70% of your drivers might be clean. But what message are you putting out there? If a driver knows that there is a potential that I may be tested at work because there's random testing for drugs, do you think they will partake? It's a deterrent. So that also helps. Post-accident drug testing. Honorable Minister, you spoke of the golden hour. In that golden hour, an accident happens. In whatever we also do, the driver, if they are lucky to be alive, we also test for drugs. What have they taken in that golden hour? It helps us in terms of statistics, in knowing what's going on out there. It helps us in terms of, conscientizing others and this being a deterrent because we are testing. And for the insurer, I think I saw a few insurer friends of mine here. Patrick right at the back. What does it do? There you go. You've got a guy who's fully insured, but he's got a driver who's been partaking. The evidence is there. You've tested. How do you react as an insurer? Food for thought. So the effects of substance abuse, I think this I will not really delve into because I think we're all grown-ups here. We know the effect of substance abuse. It is a myth that substances will make you do things that you've never done. Yes, they will, negatively. That Dutch courage that you have is associated with substance abuse. Because at some point you stop thinking. The substances take over. Whatever the parents are shouting at the back and urging you to slow down, it doesn't make sense anymore. What's in your head? Substances are taking over. So the risks are there. We spoke of legislation, of what we need to do as a country. I think 159 countries around the world now have national legislation prohibiting drug driving, although most of these laws do not define what is considered to be a drug, nor do they specify a threshold. With what we are doing as ASDM, we'll be able to identify a drug. We'll also be able to identify the concentration of the drug that you've taken. Just from taking your urine, just from taking your saliva, and using your blood. So we'll be able to identify you. And that also helps the statistics. We will then know at Mbare what are the common drugs that are being taken. We've profiled, for example, school children. You'd find that school children in the southern side of town will take your Mtoriro, they'll take your Guga, and so forth. As you go to the northern side of town, it changes. You've got your cocaine, and they've got all these fancy names for it. Coke, when they say it, it sounds like it's quite a thing. Coke, crystal meth, and you've got kids that consume themselves the face of crystal meth. So we all live in an environment. Drivers live in an environment, and we are all exposed to this. So, in terms of testing, we've spoken about the importance of detecting and monitoring the drugs among drivers and other road users continuously to determine the scale of the problem and to develop appropriate measures. Statistics will duly inform the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development. In terms of testing, what are we doing and what are we using? We are, I think for anybody who looks after a family, there's nothing as heartbreaking as being falsely accused. For example, I test you here today, and there you are, you come out positive. But in actual fact, you are negative. Why? Because we've used a faulty drug testing kit on you. That's not fair, you see. So, as the project, we've engaged with the Ministry of Health and Childcare, and then gone with devices that have been duly approved by the Ministry of Health and Childcare. And I tell you, this is a very difficult process to have a device approved by the Ministry of Health and Childcare to be administered to people in Zimbabwe. Devices will test up to 30 drugs when you do the urine test, when you do the blood test, the saliva test. And we'll soon go on to the hair test, whereby I can take a piece of your hair, put it into a machine, and be able to determine what drugs you've taken. On-site testing, roadside testing, laboratory-based testing. As the project, again, we've got a few partners with that. That's it from me. Those are the social media handles. And for free community-based drug screening, you can get in touch and we'll screen you free of charge. Walk in, we screen you, we tell you what you've taken. Walk in with your child. It's a difficult conversation for any parent. Walk in with the child, urine-based screening. We tell you, nah, your child is fine. Or among these 15, 30 drugs, this is what they've taken, and this is the extent of how they are using, free of charge. Because we're a project out to help Zimbabwe. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is a challenge. Operators who would volunteer this afternoon to invite these gentlemen and ladies to their company for free testing. There they are. So, Honorable Minister, resolution number 1 is here for you. Oh yes. Oh yes. If we are driving. So that's a resolution which is quite clear for us, Honorable Minister, as part of our agenda, and well done and well said. I can assure you, Mr. Mangeji, if we were to test a Mishikashika driver, they would test positive to all the 30 drugs that you just mentioned. Here to the Acting Permanent Secretary, Dr. I won't say Princess now.
Thank you, MC, and thank you, the presenter. I have two questions. Thank you. I have two questions, and the other one is a presentation or a proposal to the stakeholders for consideration. The first one is there a possibility for your organization, once it's fully operational in terms of the project, to partner with the therapy for purposes of medical testing to our drivers on the road? And the second one is that in terms of roadside testing, are the results immediate so that we will not even delay our passengers? Lastly, to the stakeholders, as a country, we are going towards the SADC compliant driver's license, which is when the proposal is that it will to expire after every 5 years. And for you to be able to renew, you have to undergo through medicals. And the only medical that is really critical there is the one in terms of testing your eyesight. Maybe we can also consider, apart from eye testing, can we also consider drug testing so that we'll be able to renew the license? I thank you and submit. Thank you.
PS, please.
Thank you very much, Doc. I will not repeat some of the things that have been spoken about. Mine is towards, where is he? Oh, there you are. Mine is towards insurance claims. I think one of the things, Honorable Minister, that we need to do is that we need to align the underwriting of the buses, the public transporters, with the medicals. So essentially, if a bus operator is licensing their buses, in overseas, they would ask you who's going to be the driver of that particular bus, if there are 3 or 4. So I think it's minded we can put a law or a statutory instrument that bus operators submit medicals of the drivers as part of the insurance cover. And then maybe from the insurance side, it actually makes it more sense for you to be able to insure or underwrite a customer who's actually free from most of the challenges that you might have. The second one, which is more also to do with the drug testing itself. You spoke about the license which is coming across, but instead of us waiting for 5 years, I think we need to maybe amend our defensive driver's license, that each time the defensive driver's license requires now for you to come in for periodic medicals. So we can say every 3 months come in for periodic medicals. If you miss that, then obviously we suspend the driver's license. That's my submission, sir.
It's on. Okay, thank you. Mine is a proposal to the Honorable Minister that this issue of drugs, I think, and I'm sure that it is contributing much to the accidents that are occurring on our roads. For public transporters, I am proposing that can't it be mandatory that if drivers are tested for drugs as they are driving along the road, so that when we wait for the period where their defensive licenses are renewed, already you would have a number of people that would have died in between the period. Can't we have a system where, for instance, I'll give an example. As the drivers approach the toll gates, there is just a breathalyzer for drug testing, so that the results are quickly communicated to the operator in question that your bus driver so and so has tested positive for a particular drug. It's just a proposal. Because when the period that we are in and the prevalence of the cases of drugs, especially here in Zimbabwe, it's going up on a daily basis. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Javangwe. I'm Director for Pathology Services in the Ministry of Health. It's nice to know that there are now some institutions which are offering services to close the gap which we have of testing for drugs and substance, alcohol, drugs of abuse in this country. There's certainly a big gap which is there in the Ministry of Health and probably Ministry of Home Affairs as well, which they are helping to fill. My question is, sometimes the equipment required to conduct these tests is quite expensive. Even there needs to be training of personnel as well. Is there any way of ring fencing funds, either from, you may have funds from pools such as third-party insurance and things like that, to ring fence funds so that you can buy equipment and train personnel so that you'll be able to actually close this deficit in equipment and training which we have in this area. Thank you.
My suggestion is that whatever is agreed upon today, perhaps I realize that a lot of offenses are committed, but prosecution doesn't really take place. Is it not possible that when somebody's committed a crime like a traffic offense, we have special courts just for traffic, such that if somebody's committed a crime today, by the end of the week, he's prosecuted in court, and that offense is shared with the insurer, because the insurer is the one that is exposed to the risk of that particular driver, and because the insurer is going to pay out that claim. When that insurer pays out that claim, the next time that driver renews his premium, that premium should supposed to go up because he is a reckless and risky driver. Thank you.
Zokwadini ndoda kumbobetsera apa. Kubva pamutauro wekutanga pari kunzi technology ngaenderere mberi nai. Ko zvakambofoira zvacho zvazichiitwa here? Isu toda kutiziva kuti munhu kana akadhakwa pambowanikwa mapurisa anenge ari murodhumu achiti iwe akadhakwa mira panapa kana wasoba tichakuendesa. Izvoita kuti timbo takazoziva kuti tiri kuenda same direction here nebasa retiri kuita. Technology inotonyanya wese pachitsotsi. Problem yatiri kuita ndeyekuti zvatinazo hatinambozvisenzesa. Tiri kutsvaga zvimwe. Polisi yakambozara murodhumu nema nzira espida. Kwazvakaenda hatina kukuona. Kwazvakafira hatina kudii? Hatina kukuona. Ngatimbogadzirai zviripo izvi timboona kuti zviri kufoerera panani. Zvidhakwa izvi zvishoma izvo zvikungonanga parengi kungosvika uchikuumba zvidhakwa hazvisati zvamboumbiwa zvinongorega zvirimo mukati memarengi zvichidhakwa zvazvo zvozodhakwa nemapurisa acho. Saka kuti ndione kuti timboita zveteknoloji ka tisati tagadzirisa uorukawo teknoloji inongosvika chiroverwa pasi. Hakuna chakadaro hatimboitai timboona kuti timbobvunza minista kuti zvenyu zvafoira zvamanga munazvo kubva paVID polisi nadriver wacho ndo combination nesu maorganizations kuti tiri kumboita nezvipi, tahwina zvipi, tagona zvipi, tochitanga kututira manje kuti ngazviremere vanhu. Nekuti uyo ataura wemutauri kuti ndiri kuoffer free, aiwa ifree yegore rino here aite tennis aita free, achaisa futi zvinhu zvacho mari mukati maoperator. Saka maoperators anopedzisira aremerwa. Ngatimbogadzirai zvinhu zviripo izvi zviite straight. Ndatenda. indoitwa any more needs pazipta.
Maitenyo pamsore rega ningotenda uwepo munhu wese ari pano through the honorable minister tezvara wangu musiyamwa tinokuremekedzai zvikuru. Ndauri kunotaura chinhu chimwe chete, ndofunga mutaura abva mukutaura iko zvinezvi ataura chimwe chinhu chakatikoshera. Regai nditaure ndichiti technology yakatinakira zvikuru, but it's something to be planned kuti chaenda kupi. Ndofunga wana nanga wambotaura kuti enforcement is the main challenge atinayo. Iko zvinezvi kutaura chokwadi tikabva panapa kuti padhuze dhuze tese pano palunch panapa kuti handei pana 4th murengi munotakurwa vanhu. Mune mapost anozikanwa neCID nemapurisa nedrug section nani nani kuti munotengeswa mutoriro, munotengeswa zvakati, munotengeswa zvakati. Ndikuti izvozvo kana enforcement ichizviziva ngatimboita get rid of that, because chikuzotika munhu akatogara murengi ari kutengesa zvinhu izvozvo ada kutengeserani, ada kutotengesera drive. Hapana munhu akagarira imomo ndi drive wada kutotengesera. Saka titone munhu atori padhuze ari kutoda kuti nation ngaife indichita mari, wozoti hakina nhanga nation ngaife noti because ari kutendera drive kuti ngabude nebhazi akadhakwa. Ngatitange tagadzirisa zvinhu zviri padhuze tozobatsirwa. Ndofunga pesi, ndofunga pamameetings andafamba nawo ka amana dai tikambozvitorawo zvimwe zviserious ka tinoenda somewhere. Pesi, I thank you very much, I salute you ka, because hamudi kungotaura nyaya ngaanotsanyanya. Ndofunga izvi maindaba izvi tadya chikafu tichingouya kunodya, hakuna chati kumbobudisa kana one day. We are sick and tired of this. Ngatipinde muaction. Kana vaida kungonzi varume nhasi ngatimbopinda mumarengi tiite sweep up, ngatinotsvaira iyi kumakora yeye machena yamuna akanombotyisa iko kupinda mumadhaka umo kamuda kuita zvinhu zvifambe. Thank you very much.
Okay. Tine dambudziko rokuti there's mushroom of license bottle store at bus terminus. Izvo takatombotaura neliquor board. I think the Ministry of Local Government is not here. They are issuing out license to those bottle store owners at bus rank. If you go at the rank, Copacabana now, there's a bus store, there's a bottle store. If you go to Mbari, there's a bottle store there. All over the bottle store. If you go at Rosenda, there's a bottle store where they are encouraging drivers to drink beer. We didn't have this. We don't know why they are issuing a license, liquor license to those bottle store owners at bus terminus. This thing must be stopped immediately. Passenger Association of Zimbabwe. My name is Tafazwa Goliath.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think you will agree with me that for the sake of time, lots of contributions have been made on this subject matter of drug and substance abuse. But my own contribution while I'm on the floor is a drug is a drug, clinical or otherwise. Mutoriro, or those drugs that are issued from the pharmacy and the otherwise. So what we need to check on them, Honorable Minister, as we grow up, age tends to dictate that there are a lot of diseases that befall us. The BPs, the arthritis, the this and that, without talking about or introducing the issue of limiting the lifespan of a driver in terms of age, which is not the subject matter under discussion. The issue is that drugs should be tested either for clinical or otherwise. Otherwise, anonyorwa pae, anogadzirwa wane hani, madrugs achiwa ene mishonga, asi ane effect yekukodzerisa. Anotonyorwa kuti discourage from using machinery. But a bus is a bigger machinery with that supersonic speed. So to you, University of Zimbabwe people on drugs, can you also take care of that one when you are considering the issue of testing? Thank you very much. If you look at your program, from 11:45, we were supposed to have a presenter from the Ministry, Department of Road, Engineer Pasi. But Honorable Minister, what we that came out of this Indaba are issues of road construction, and of course rehabilitation as it affects road safety. So we asked him at least to couch a bit on that area. Murukushanda any traffic safety council or any other organization. So aturi kuona maaccidents achingoitika pama steep slopes and otherwise. Because the issue yemazonzi yataurwa here, is it universal or otherwise? What engineering issues do you consider pamunogadzira road dzipfura nekumasvingo and otherwise on road safety? So vakumbira a bit of time, vati vachazopresenta havo a bit later when he has put into effect the issues that we have given to him. For that reason, I'm aware that Mr. Sai, representing Insurance Council of Zimbabwe, is always ready. Insurance people are always ready. Can you make your presentation now, sir? Mr. Sai?
I'm coming, sir.
Oh, you are coming. Thank you. You didn't embarrass me. You are always...
Good day. In fact, it's good afternoon. I stand on already invested protocols, but I will say to the Honorable Minister, FT Mona, I'm going to make a presentation on insurance on this Indaba, but before I make that presentation, I have a dedication that came from Insurance Council. Since there are going to be questions, a question and answer session, then I will be assisted in answering the questions. We are privileged today to have the chairman of Insurance Council of Zimbabwe, who is Mr. Patrick Kusikwenyu. Maybe you can raise your hand. Okay, you may stand up. Yes, Mr. Patrick Kusikwenyu is the chairman for Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. We also have Mr. David Nyabadza, who is the deputy chairperson or the vice chairperson for Insurance Council of Zimbabwe, as well as the chairperson for the PR and Marketing Committee. He is here present. You can stand up. Thank you. With me also from the ICZ Secretariat, we are also privileged today to have the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Tendai Karonga. Yes, last but not least, we have my colleague, Ringisai Batia, who is Public Relations Manager, PR and Marketing Manager. I think she has just tested out. So you can see that this particular Indaba has been given as a high-profile Indaba, and because here with me, we have the full support of the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. Myself, I am Nicholas Sai. I'm the head of operations at Insurance Council of Zimbabwe. And obviously, as operations, I'm where the tire meets the tarmac. In fact,
Rinkisai is seated there. This is an Indaba, Honorable Minister, and we will present our role for insurance for road users. And okay, in terms of presentation. A presentation layout is given up there, which is role of insurance in introduction, role of insurance in protecting road users, third-party insurance, related insurance, awareness campaigns, and the role of insurance. Basically, what we are speaking to, because in terms of the time that we have been given, what we are speaking to, we are also going to be circulating this report. We are speaking relating to, in the event that there is an accident, that's when insurance generally comes in. But we also have interventions before. So the presentation will speak to that. I also want to acknowledge the presentations or the submissions that have been made, particularly around compliance. I think this is a major issue in insurance, and indeed we have engaged at different levels, government and other stakeholders. Government in terms of the police, including even the Minister or Ministry of Transport, Ms. Honorable Mona, you will remember we came to visit your office, I think it was early last year. So I think in terms of compliance, I think we cannot emphasize that point. In terms of insurance, okay, no, we can now move. Yes, our roads are purposely designed to take us to our destination. However, the same roads, when unsafe, result in sad moments. I think there we are simply saying there will be accident, death, injuries. The statistics also, Honorable Minister, have been talked about. You have also illuminated them for 2022. But this one for 2018, where Zimbabwe was rated as #1, is really a challenge. Really making this workshop or this Indaba very relevant and opportune. And I agree with the submissions that have been made that it should not be a talk show. It should be such that resolutions that are made here are acted upon. And indeed, the submissions that have come across is clear that in terms of discussion, what we are lacking is the implementation. We can move on. The insurance industry plays a direct and indirect role in this country insofar as road traffic accidents are concerned. Further, as Insurance Council of Zimbabwe, we want to collaborate with government in terms of disaster responsiveness, and the road safety is a key strategic focus for Insurance Council. This is Insurance Council, is an association. There are 20 members and 20 short-term insurers and 8 reinsurers. I'll just give below the table of our members. You can proceed. Yes, this is the list of the Insurance Council of Zimbabwe members. You can move. Generally, the Road Traffic Act and the Chapter 1311 and the Road Transportation Act 1315 provides for third-party insurance in Zimbabwe. And this is where insurance comes in, to protect or to provide compensation following accidents. And the first class of insurance relating to that is full third party, which is compulsory. And when we are saying compulsory insurance, there I give examples of saying how to define compulsory. Third party, just briefly, is to say when you enter into a contract with an insurance company, the person that goes and visits one of our members is regarded as the first party. This insurance itself is the second part. Then the third party is not part of the contract, but the benefits of the contract of the first party are paid to that particular person. So it's a third party. So, and generally it's meant to protect innocent road users from road traffic accident. Third party insurance in Zimbabwe generally is divided into three. There is local registered vehicle. I think this one is common, where we all, we go to an insurance company, you get the insurance, then you get your Zinara license. So there is third party insurance for local registered vehicles. And then in addition to that, because the Road Traffic Act provides that no vehicle should be driven on Zimbabwean road without insurance. So when foreign registered vehicles coming from other countries come into Zimbabwe, they obtain third-party insurance. And there are basically two forms of insurance arrangement relating to foreign registered vehicle, which is the motor pool, motor insurance pool, and the yellow card scheme. The yellow card scheme is for the COMESA, and the motor insurance pool is for countries that are vehicles that are coming from the COSATU or the South Africa, not COSATU. I'm forgetting the exact, SACU countries. So in that way, so ordinarily, if you are involved in an accident with a motor vehicle in Zimbabwe, in terms of the existing legislation, there should be an insurance policy that should be covering you in form of third party. Regrettably, Honorable Minister, like the presentation that has been made, the compliance in terms of people having insurance is very low. Our last computation was that for public service vehicles, I think we're sitting at 65% compliance, and for motor vehicles themselves, I think it was 55%, suggesting that the level of vehicles that do not have insurance is very, 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 very high. We can then now move. And then lastly, there is passenger liability insurance. The Road Transportation Act 1315 provides that public service vehicles, those that are licensed, should have passenger liability insurance. And that particular insurance is offered by Special Risk Insurance Consortium. Special Risk Insurance Consortium, called SRC, was put together by the insurance companies in Zimbabwe or in this country, and they are writing this jointly. Yes, I'll just give here the accident that has happened. These were declared as national disasters. You will note that most of the accidents that were declared as national disasters, most of them did not have insurance. There's the one that happened in Kai, Zupco, Bolt Carter, Brooklyn, Mandep, Mutare disaster, and Charles Luanga. All those, Honorable Minister, did not have insurance. Only those. This is a clear indication that there is a problem with compliance. And Honorable Minister, we did not put the numbers that the insurance pay because, for instance, in 2017, I think that accident, it was a huge one. I think it was around 230 million. I think that time it was 230,000 USD. And the insurance industry generally is that we paid over and above the policy limits that are there. You can move on. Also, in addition to third-party insurance, we have what we call related insurance. These related insurance, they are not compulsory. In other words, they are optional. And one of the key ones that is appropriate to this fora of to this Indaba and is personal accident insurance. Personal accident insurance covers if you are injured, for instance, you sustain injury solely and directly from an accident caused by violent, visible, and external means, resulting in death or disablement. So this is complementary to third-party insurance. In fact, this type of cover, you can take it as an individual, on your own person. You can also take it on a group basis, what we call group personal accident. And you can also state the benefits that you want. For instance, you say death, you state the amount that you want. Or the benefits are based on your earnings. For instance, you can say death, I want 3 years earnings, which means to say when you